So, when you travel, you also have to consider the cost of utilizing your vehicle for a long period of travel. There is deterioration or whatever, breakage, all kinds of things that you have to really consider. So when you go to a retail fair, what you did that weekend is the beginning and the end of what you did. You can put your cost of sale neatly into that 1 week. It's real easy. All of your cost of sale is right there and it's pretty obvious. When you do a wholesale show, your expenses are triple what they would be for a retail fair. But the timeline that you will amortize those costs over can be huge. Like we were talking a minute ago. How many orders did you write?
Well, we wrote probably I think like 15 orders.
15 orders at your first wholesale show. That's an outrageous success. You need to think about, if you're going to do wholesaling, doing 3 shows at least, not making 1 sale unless you've really prepared. This is an outrageous success to do 15 orders because those 15 orders, and she's already getting reorders, which means she was priced right, and it was produced properly, and it worked. So she's now got a successful line. And I don't even know what it is, but it's a successful line. Now, those 15 orders will likely be with her for 3 years before they take a break. A lot of retailers believe in taking a vacation from an artist if they have them for 3 years and been promoting them heavily for 3 years. Some of those 15 galleries will stay with you forever. Some of them might be with you for 10 years. But it's a long period of time that you expect to be doing business with the gallery that's starting a wholesale relationship. That gallery didn't decide to take you on unless they were truly convinced that A, they were going to move it in a slow economy, you were priced right, you looked like you were really going to return phone calls and be there for them, and that you were really ready to start a business. They would not be taking that risk because that's a risk for them to reserve part of their case, part of a jewelry case for your work. So that's an amazing, wonderful experience. And so you will amortize these costs probably over a 5-year period. Okay? So your cost of sale for the wholesale show turns out to be very little when you talk about how much volume you're actually selling for those costs. I know people who did our show once, and I have not seen them in 15 years. And they got all of their orders, and they continue to get all their orders from the same galleries. They're mostly potters. So your retail fairs will rarely cultivate the kind of repeat, low-maintenance customer that helps you run a business in an efficient way. Your wholesale customers, like your galleries, are mentors, they are advisors, the relationship matures, they know the names of your pets and your kids, and they really become kind of your business partners, and you can talk to them about anything. And they will give you great suggestions on how to extend your line. There are times when your local area is just not the best feeding ground for you, and you need to be able to really identify those places where your work will sell best. It may be beach resort areas, it may be mountain areas, it may be areas with a very strong craft history, like Berea, Kentucky, or Penland or Haystack areas, the areas where the big schools are. It may be Gatlinburg, which is sometimes very, very kitschy, and other times very high craft. It depends on what part of the town you're in and what you're there for. So there are areas and little pockets around the country where your work will sell well, and you have to identify which ones those are. So you need to move from a local audience to a national audience. You may decide to have different products for your local audience and for your retail fairs than you have for your wholesale market. You may even put them under a different brand name. Think about that. So you're going to segment out your work, and you're going to segment out the markets that you're approaching, so that things match up well and that you don't have conflicts and that you can do it all easily. And the more work the simple production work that you can have an assistant help you make, the more you will, of course, get per hour. Because the $10 an hour person, you know, is doing $15 an hour work, but some of that comes back to you to help with when you have to do bookkeeping and other stuff that isn't directly bench related.
And you figure that into the labor costs of your piece, each piece?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you say local versus national audience, we're not talking wholesale versus retail in this case. You're speaking under the wholesale umbrella, local versus national audience?
Well, there are ways to retail nationally as well and internationally, but they're more difficult and a little bit more unreliable unless you're doing only 6 pieces a year and they're spectacular pieces.
Okay,
So what I am
speaking
talking about is
wholesale-
local retail versus national wholesale.
Local retail versus national wholesale.
Right.
Okay.
If you want to travel to do retail, that's fine, but you're only going to do that 4 or 5 times a year,
Right.
so that's not a big, you know, dent. It's not a big impact.
So if you had a lower price point line and a higher price point line, which would you give to who in the local retail versus national wholesale?
I think it depends on, if you are a local person in Baltimore, I would say that your low-end work would be what you're selling at retail fairs. And you could do another low-end work for wholesaling. You don't have to do one. Do you see what I'm saying? So, I mean, you want to provide a gallery owner with as broad a spectrum as you can. Sometimes your local work is all custom. And in that case, that's probably your higher-end work. So,
So it depends.
it depends. It depends. So you want to leverage your relationships with galleries as much as you can. You can always suggest a trunk show or a special event in the gallery. You can test run your one-of-a-kind pieces with your galleries. Say, you call a gallery up and say, look, I've made these 3 one-of-a-kind pieces. I have no idea whether they're going to sell or not. I want you to take them and let's talk about how we should price them. And you've got a big event coming up next month. Let's see what happens with them. And you can market test with your galleries. And retailers always want fresh inventory. They always want fresh inventory, and they always want tried and true turning work. I know it doesn't make any sense at all, but they will always tell you what they want is fresh and new, and they only want fresh and new if it's priced really right. So by wholesaling, you're going to avoid thunderstorms, 100-degree weather. You will not avoid blizzards, unfortunately. We had a bad one last year. We had a very bad one last year in Philadelphia.